Everybody coming into the challenge is so awesome. We are almost there, guys. Almost there. If you've been with me since the beginning of the challenge, you are more than 2/3 of the way there. If you're on the East Coast like me, you got 7 hours left until bedtime. 7 hours. That's it. You remember what we talked about yesterday? You can do anything for 1 hour. Remember the story I told about the father who had 30 years of sobriety and his son kept asking him if he was ever going to drink again. He said, I don't know if I'm ever going to drink again, but I know I'm not going to drink for one more day. And I love that. I love that imagery and that mentality because it's just about getting through one more day. And at this point, it's only about getting through one more hour, inching your way to bed tonight. So when you open your eyes tomorrow, you're going to go, oh my God, I did something really, really special. So I'm super pumped. I'm actually leaving for a flight for Vegas in a few hours. I'm going out for the UFC slap and the UFC events, and a friend of mine's birthday, Dave Grutman's having a big birthday party out there on Friday. So I'm actually going to fly fasted this evening as well, get to sleep in Las Vegas and wake up tomorrow morning and feel really, really proud of myself and really proud of you guys. So I know a lot of you need a lot of support right now. I've had some amazing stories coming in. I'm going to give some shout outs to some folks. I mean, just some really heartfelt, life-changing moments that have happened over the last few days and happened in our last water fasting challenge. How amazing was it to have Dana White on yesterday? That's when you know the power that fasting has made and the change that it's made in somebody's life. When somebody like a Dana White is willing to stop his busy schedule for no fee and just jump on with us for 25 minutes and share his experience for nothing other than wanting to impact you guys and share his experience. I really resonate with that. I know for me, as I travel the world and I try to impact as many lives as possible, I know that it is about the message. It's not about me. I'm just a messenger. This information doesn't belong to me. It belongs to humanity. It belongs to mankind. I'm just blessed enough to have it flow through me. And now it's going to flow through you guys and impact a lot more lives. And this is the ripple effect that we're going to use to change the world. And so let's talk about what's going on in your body right now. From a physiologic standpoint, what is happening in your body? And why am I wearing this? This is, I'm extra torturing myself. This is actually like a 20-pound weight vest. So it zips up and you just wear it like a vest. You forget that you even have it on until you take it off at the end of the day. You feel amazing. I've read some research. I haven't delved into this, so don't quote me on this, that, 12 hours with an extra 15 to 20 pounds, which is what this vest is 20 pounds, burns about an extra 600 calories a day, just walking around and going through your daily activities. I did do a light workout this morning. I know a lot of you guys did a light workout this morning. Somebody ran 72 flights of steps yesterday. It's like, you are an overachiever. So I've just been wearing this weight vest around, trying to just really push myself mentally and physically through this challenge, and really trying to drive that autophagy, which is what mild exercise will do if you're in a fasted state. So let's talk about what's going on right now. Remember, day one, as we were on the bone broths and the perfect aminos, and every day we've been on the Baja Gold sea salt in our drinking water. We've been drinking bottled spring water, preferably you've been drinking bottled spring water, preferably out of a glass. What happened on the first day is we sort of lowered our caloric intake and we decreased the amount of calories we were taking in, and we shifted to pure proteins and very, very little fat. What happened was your body began to ease into ketosis. And as you went to bed that night, your body shifted into a state of ketosis so that by the time you woke up on day two, you were fully in a ketogenic state, meaning your body had shifted from carbohydrate metabolism and sugar and glucose metabolism into fatty acid metabolism, mainly a fatty acid called beta hydroxybutyrate. And when that happens, the inflammation in your body begins to decline because those types of calories burn very, very clean. The second thing that happens as you shift into a state of ketosis, not only does the inflammation begin to go down, but your mental clarity starts to lift. And you should have noticed yesterday at some point, even if you at some point had a headache during the day or felt fatigued during the day, at some point during your second day, you should have felt a little bit of extra mental clarity, just a little cleaner, a little clearer, a little sharper, a little more focused. Then what happens is you're beginning to take the toxic load off of your immune system. Remember, our immune system doesn't just protect us from viruses and pathogens and parasites and foreign invaders. It does that too, but it spends the majority of its time, about 65% of its time, um, policing ourselves. Remember, the immune system is the one that goes into the company full of lazy employees, eats the lazy employee, and puts an employee in their seat that will do their job. It literally goes into the body and eats useless cells called senescent cells and replaces them with active cells. And that process cannot be overstated. Remember, 75% of your immune response comes right here from the gut. 75% of your immune response comes from the gut. So what happens when our gut is full of glyphosates, with herbicides, with insecticides, with pesticides, with preservatives, and then even beyond that, when it's full of foods and even worse, highly processed foods, you're just distracting the immune system, because the immune system gets called to certain sites in your body because something is there that the body doesn't recognize. And this is what happens when we eat a chemical-laden diet, preservative-laden diet, a pesticide-laden diet. When we take forms of B12 like cyanocobalamin, it calls the immune system that location, and it starts the process of inflammation. And then now on day 3, as you went to bed last night, if you made it to last night, and listen, if you broke your fast last night, that's okay. If you had bone broth yesterday, that's okay. You get a lot of benefits from fast mimicking, and you get even more benefits from fasting. But if you're only able to fast mimic and reduce your caloric intake, I'm absolutely fine with that. Congratulations. Even if you had to eat some steamed vegetables, you had to eat some bone broth because you felt like your blood sugar was really low. But today, magic is happening in your body. I mean, absolute magic is happening in your body. And by that, I mean, what is happening right now is you're having somewhere between a 10 and 700-fold increase in your natural growth hormone. And remember, growth hormone is something that's produced by our pituitary. Every cell in the body responds to this. For repair, it responds to it to regenerate. And so our growth hormone levels are rising. We're deep into a state of ketosis. We're highly active in the autophagy process. Remember, 300 billion cells that you woke up with yesterday are not with you this morning. And 300 billion cells that you woke up with this morning will not be with you tomorrow. So the question is, what kind of frequency are we sending those cells? What kind of energy are we sending those cells? What kind of nutrition are we sending those cells? Well, when we deprive them of those things, the body goes in and creates those resources on its own, and it feeds it to the healthy cells to keep your metabolism going and basically to keep you alive. You're making ATP from water and fatty acids right now instead of from sugars and carbohydrates. It's a fantastic thing. I mean, the human body is just so fascinating. The more I study human beings and human physiology, the more I believe in God. I believe that this vessel was intelligently designed. It didn't happen by accident. And when you look at the laboratory that we have inside of the human body that we can tap at no cost, it is just astounding what we can do to change our state. So let's talk for a minute about some of the more common questions that I got. You might want to shut your ears if you got kids listening for a second, because we're going to talk about poop. Lots of questions about, hey, I haven't had a bowel movement, or I've got really loose stools. Both of those are perfectly normal. If you are regular in your bowel movements and you begin a fasted period, very often you stop having a solid bowel movement for 24 or 48 hours. And that's perfectly normal. For people that go regularly and that happens, they get a little surprised by that. This is because we're not putting anything in the top, so nothing is coming out the rear. The second thing that happens very often, especially for people that are regular, is they begin to get loose stools, watery stools, yellowy stools. All of that is normal. This is part of the elimination process. And literally what is happening in day 3 is your the luminal wall of your intestine, which is the inside wall of your intestine, will actually begin to, in a healthy way, degrade mucoid plaques. Mucoid plaques are the really sticky, cakey plaques that are caked against the wall of the intestine. You may notice when you break your fast tomorrow and have your first meal, an incredible rush of energy. That's actually not a rush of energy. That is the nutrients for the first time, maybe in your adult lifetime, breaking that blood-brain barrier and hitting your bloodstream the way we were meant to digest food. And you just feel it as a rush of energy, right? So This is because you're so clean that you're really able to feel the energy and the nutrients from food. One of the reasons why I tell people that when they ask me, Gary, what kind of diet should I be on? Should I be on carnivore, keto, paleo? Should I be on a whole food, vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian? I always say, rather than pick a dogmatic dietary regimen, just make sure that you're eating whole foods as close to their original state as possible. A lot of the damage from our foods does not come from the food itself. It comes from the distance from the food to the table. You probably saw me get a lot of flack online. I even got censored by the Canola Oil Society of Canada. I didn't even know there was a Canola Oil Society of Canada, but apparently there is. And they attacked me for saying that seed oils were bad for you. And I said, listen, I'm not attacking the seed, right? I'm not actually even attacking the oil. What I'm telling you is that industrial processed seed oils are bad for you. You will never convince me that you can put a plant like a canola plant, which is actually called a rapeseed. You can't put rapeseed into a commercial press and have that come out gummy, and then take that gummy rapeseed and break it up with hexane, which is a known neurotoxin, and then take that hexane-rich oil and heat it to 405 degrees, which turns it rancid, and take that rancid, putrefied, hexane-infused oil and deodorize it with sodium hydroxide, not sodium chloride, that's table salt, sodium hydroxide, a known carcinogen. Deodorize it with sodium hydroxide, and then in some cases, bleach it, bottle it, and then put it on the shelf. You will never convince me that is, that is healthy, right? So I'm not attacking the plant or the source. Like I don't attack the cows and the goats and the sheep and the fish. I attack the distance from the field to the table. So a lot of times, we are what we eat eats, not what we eat. So that's what I mean by whole foods. So I really do want to answer those questions. Loose stools are perfectly normal. I will take the vest off. All right, this is going to feel good. Let me get this 20 pounds off my chest. Oh my God, that was just like having a T-bone steak. So the, and by the way, guys, you see the Ultimate Human shirt. If you guys haven't gotten your Ultimate Human merch, you need to go to theultimatehuman.com and pick yourself up some Ultimate Human swag gear and rep the brand for me. So we're going to do something a little different today. We're going to do shout outs because I've received so many amazing messages. I want to recognize you guys and I want to shed some light on you guys. So let's just get right to it. So Maggie Osborne, here's what she said. Morning of the third day, I feel great. This is my second fast with Gary. It's been even better than the first. Thank you, Gary. My why to do all I can to prevent the recurrence of cancer. I'm in remission after beating stage 30 small intestine cancer. I'm at stage 3 small intestine cancer. Maggie, that's amazing. If you actually look at the research on fasting and oncology, you will find that some of the most promising emerging research in cancer is to put patients into a fasted state, a ketogenic state. And while they're in a state of ketosis, starving the cancer cells, you infuse smaller amounts of chemotherapeutic agents, very low volumes of chemotherapeutic agents that are actually hiding inside of glucose molecules. So just by putting a person in a fasted state, a state of ketosis, driving their blood sugar down even further with insulin, heightening the receptor sensitivity on the surface of a cancer cell, and then using the stalking horse method of putting chemotherapy inside of a glucose molecule and putting that into the bloodstream so the cancer cell, which will uptake it at about 70 to 72 times the rate of a healthy cell, kills that cell and leaves the healthy cells alone. We can actually prevent this process by fasting on a regular basis. Remember, every damaged cell in your body was once a metabolically healthy cell that became metabolically dysfunctional. All cancer, regardless of its form or origin, is a healthy cell that became metabolically sick. Ashley Coulter, thank you, Gary. Going in for my breast cancer surgery today, and this fast was a godsend. Blessings always. Happy to be here with everyone. Those are the kind of messages, Ashley. Thank you for that. That make me know that this message is resonating, and that's why I want you guys to help me further resonate this message. Shell Bell. That sounds like a nickname, but hey, Shell Bell. Having the live while doing the 3-day water fast is helping me stay on track. Day 2 is way better than day 1. You know, it's funny. I sort of get like a 50-50 split between people that are like, day 1 was a disaster, but day 2 was easy. And people that go, day 1 was a piece of cake, and day 2, I'm really, really struggling. So it's very individual. It depends on your hemoglobin A1C, you know, your insulin sensitivity and what have you. But guys, if you're on the East Coast, you're 6.5 hours away from bedtime. You can do anything for 6.5 hours, right? Remember, 1 more hour at a time. I don't know if I'm going to eat today. I just know I'm not going to eat for 1 more hour. Just keep saying that to yourself. Be mentally strong. Dana talked about it yesterday. He said it's just a mental game. You don't have to eat. You just think you have to eat. A lot of times we eat for emotion and we eat for something to do, and we eat out of boredom. Trisha Williams, I'm a first timer feeling surprisingly good. This has been easier than I thought. Okay, Trisha. I thought cooking for my family would be my downfall, but so far so good. I'm hoping to power through day 3. Trisha, you are a rock star. My son had the audacity to start to cook a grass-fed ribeye in ghee butter with sea salt on it while I was sitting in the kitchen last night. I just about clotheslined him in the kitchen. I go, Dylan, what are you doing? Like, you know, that's literally like my kryptonite. And I just sniffed it in, but I also resisted. So Trisha, great work. Brian Brigham, almost failed midday yesterday from having one of the most severe headaches I've ever had. I love this post. Kept taking salts and drank a gallon of water and broke through the plateau. I feel better now, and I feel I can make it today. Brian, awesome. That's a message I want everybody to hear. So many of you struggled with those headaches. Remember, headaches are not coming from the brain. They're coming from the covering of the brain, from the dura. There are no pain receptors in the brain. The brain cannot send a pain signal. It can only receive and interpret pain signals, but they come from the dura of the brain, and this is very often related to sodium, dehydration, and electrolyte imbalance. One of the reasons why I'm a big fan of the mineral salts like Baja Gold or Celtic sea salt. Batten Shabani, I feel so good, like I'm high. So amazing. Day 3 is easier than day 1 or 2. Awesome. I kind of feel the same way. I was a little bit slow this morning, kind of getting out of bed. I feel like my brain was still in first gear, but now it's in 5th gear, and I feel amazing. And I get a lot of energy from you guys. One of the reasons why I pour 2 hours every day for 3 days, 6 hours into these water fasts, is because I know that we need support. Communities are so much stronger than individuals. In fact, research has proven this. You know, some of the worst research we do on human beings is when we study things in isolation. We take a cell out of the human body, we put it in a petri dish, and we look at how it behaves in a laboratory. And then we assume that when we put that cell back into the human body, it's going to behave that way in its community. And it doesn't. Communities change the way cells behave. Communities change the way human beings behave. This is why I am such a fan of big data. Right? We know what individualized randomized clinical trials have gotten us, right? We're the most obese nation in the world. Tatiana Mantilla. I went through chemotherapy last year because of large B-cell lymphoma. I'm in remission now. I just turned 37, and I want to know if there's any risks of fasting. I'm feeling okay so far. No, there are no known risks post-oncology treatment for fasting that I am personally aware of. I am also not a physician. I'm not licensed to practice medicine or give medical advice. So I would redirect that to your physician or your oncologist. But I am not aware of anything in the peer-reviewed clinical literature that elevates the risk of fasting post-cancer remission. In fact, I'm well aware of research that states the exact opposite, that fasting can actually improve our immune system and prevent further relapses into cancer and prevent metastases. 90% of all cancer deaths are folks that not die from cancer. They die from where it metastasizes to. How does it metastasize? It has to enter the bloodstream. And that's where we want our immune system to be our guardian angel. So William Gorellis, I was a heroin addict for 10 years. And in 6 months, Gary's process has transformed my life. Gary Brecka is the man. Wow. William, thank you so much for that. That is so kind of you. I have all of the empathy in the world for addicts. My partner lost his father at 10 years old. He's a recovering, when I say recovering, he's a heroin addict that's also in remission. I know how difficult it is to battle addiction, nicotine, alcohol, heroin, narcotics, what have you. I also pass no judgment on people that have deficiencies in dopamine and are seeking normalcy. We have to stop thinking that addicts are seeking a high, that they wake up in the morning and say they want to get banged up. They wake up every morning and say, I want to feel normal. And whatever that compound is, it makes them feel normal. Most addicts develop an addiction because of their search for normalcy. And eventually they're running from a low. They are not running towards a high. I think the most overlooked thing in all of addictive therapy is the dopamine deficiency. We do not treat the dopamine deficiency, which causes the seeking behavior. This is why we have a tendency to see a lot of addiction shift and not really go away. If you've ever been an addict or you've ever known a true addict, very often their addiction will shift. You will fix one physical addiction and it will move to another addiction. Alcoholics become drug addicts become smokers, smokers become workaholics, workaholics become workoutaholics, but something replaces that necessity for dopamine. Do we have any more? Okay, so let's lead them through a breath work session. Okay, that sounds like a great idea. So guys, I also get a lot of questions about breath work. And don't forget, we have an incredible guest coming on, as impressive as in my opinion, as Dana White was yesterday, coming into the VIP chat today, literally one of the leading functional medicine physicians in the world, 77 years old, and he is still competing at a professional level in long distance triathlons. By the way, guys, that is a 2-mile swim, a 112-mile bike, and a full marathon at 77. He'll tell you how many he's competed, but it's over 50. And so when I see physicians and practitioners and functional medicine docs that are living that kind of lifestyle, that's the advice that I want to take. What did they say? Never trust a skinny chef. So I don't trust skinny chefs and I don't trust unhealthy doctors. So I want to lead you through a breathwork session. I do get a lot of questions about that. I've done some breathwork guides. They're also available on my Instagram. But let's do this, guys. Let's wake our bodies up. Let's elevate our mood. Let's improve our emotional state. Let's flood the body with oxygen. There's lots of free radical oxidation going on in the body right now. Lots of waste elimination, repair, detoxification, regeneration. So let's give our body some fuel to get through that process. So just sit comfortably. Put your hands on your knees like this. We're going to do 3 rounds of 5 breaths, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do it. If this is your first time doing breath work, please do not participate in this if you are standing, showering, driving, or doing anything other than sitting comfortably in a chair or even lying on a couch, right? Not something that you want to do behind the wheel. You can get lightheaded. We're going to change the oxygen tension in our tissues. I have a podcast coming up in August with Wim Hof, who is, in my opinion, the father of breath work. He's a mentor of mine. It's going to be a podcast that you don't want to miss. It's obviously free. And he has done so much to bring breath work to the mainstream. I always give credit where credit is due. This method is his. It's not mine. But this is the one thing, if you've been following me for any amount of time, that I never, ever, ever missed. And I always say never, ever. I mean, never, ever miss. This is portable. You can travel with it. You can do it on airplanes. You can do it in your house. You can do it in a hotel room. So this is one of my favorite ways to wake the body up. So we're going to sit calmly. Just put our hands on our legs. We're going to take 5 obnoxiously deep breaths. When I say obnoxious, I mean like your head just broke the surface of the water and you were underwater for 2 minutes and you never thought you were going to get another breath again. I want to activate your intercostals, called your auxiliary muscles of respiration. You know, I read a statistic, I wasn't able to verify this, but I read a statistic that after the age of 30, 95% of people will never sprint again for the rest of their life. I tend to believe that's true. I haven't seen the evidence behind it, but regardless of whether it's 95 or 80%, the vast majority of people do not use their auxiliary muscles of respiration. So you don't have to go out for a sprint. You just have to do aggressive breath work. Get the air down into the lobes of the lungs, not just the apex of the lungs. So we're going to take 5 obnoxiously deep breaths. One breath looks like this. You don't have to do it yet. I'm just going to demonstrate. You breathe out until you're relaxed. You don't breathe the rest of that air out. Okay, you take an obnoxious breath in, breathe out until you're relaxed. We're going to do that 5 times. On the 5th breath, we're going to exhale and we're going to hold for about 15 or 20 seconds. I actually hold for 4 minutes now between rounds of breath work. I'm not going to do that with you. Most of you guys would pass out. But after 3 rounds of 30 breaths, I hold for 4 minutes in between each breath work. And I will only start it at 30 seconds. And then when we can't hold that breath anymore, we're going to take a deep breath in. We're going to hold that breath as long as we can. We're going to exhale and we're going to start over. You can add kindling to the fire by putting your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And if you're outside, by horizon gazing. Gazing as far out on the horizon as you can. Okay, so let's do 5 breaths. You guys ready? Here we go. Put your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Hold your breath for about 10 more seconds. If you got lightheaded, that is a sign of how much carbon dioxide was in your tissues. This is the sensation of the oxygen tension changing in your tissue. 5 more seconds. We're going to take a deep breath in. Ready? And hold. Tongue to the roof of your mouth. 10 more seconds. And let it out. If your fingers and your toes got tingly, that's a good sign. If your lips got tingly, that is a good sign. If you got lightheaded, believe it or not, that is a good sign that the oxygen is exchanging with your tissues and you're changing the tension. You should actually feel already a little more calm. A rise in a category of neurotransmitters called catecholamines is what creates a wakened state. This breathwork technique reduces catecholamines so it can calm you down. Let's do the next 2 unbroken. Ready? 5 more breaths. Put your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Ten seconds. Deep breath in. Tongue to the roof of your mouth. And let it out. Let's do this last round unbroken. 5 breaths. Here we go. Tongue to the roof of your mouth. If you're near a window, just horizon gaze. 10 seconds. Take a deep breath in. Tongue to the roof of your mouth. And let it out. Oh, I love the way that that makes me feel. Imagine when you can work up to 3 rounds of 30 breaths in the morning. And then imagine if you can do it while you're touching the surface of the earth and discharging into the earth. And then imagine if you can touch the surface of the earth, do 3 rounds of 30 breaths, and have sunlight hitting your bare skin. That is the absolute panacea of health right there. The further we get away from the basics, the sicker we become. You know, it's really interesting. When I start to work with a lot of my clients, the first thing I do is I bring them back to the basics. All human beings need 3 things, guys. All human beings need 3 things. We need 91 essential minerals. We need 2 essential fatty acids, and we need 8 essential amino acids. The word essential means they're essential for life. You hear me say all the time, there is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. So that should end that discussion right there. Carbohydrates are fine, but they are not essential for life. When you're choosing carbohydrates, be the most judicious with your food choices when you choose carbohydrates. I am not telling you not to eat fruit, not to eat vegetables, and not to eat white rice. I'm just telling you that when you choose non-essential items for your diet, make the most judicious choice you make those foods. Don't choose junk carbohydrates. Number one, they're not necessary. And number two, if you put junk carbohydrates in your body, they will steal from you and not serve you. One of the other practices I try to get clients to really come to grips with is building an invisible fence around themselves. So we learn to filter things before they make it to the temple. You have two choices. Every time something gets close to your body, you can either filter it before it enters your body, or you can allow your body to be the filter. If you drink tap water, your body will filter out the fluoride, the chlorine, the microplastics, the pharmaceuticals, the glyphosates, the metals, whatever's in that water. Or you can put filtered water into your body and not force your body to be the filter. You can put highly processed foods, non-organic pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, glyphosates, preservatives into your body. That's fine. But your body will filter those things out rather than you being the filter. I feel the same way about relationships. You know, relationships serve us and relationships steal from us. They either give us energy or they take energy from us. It's an amazing principle in physics called the law of constructive interference. And constructive interference states that if two frequencies of equal wavelength meet, the size of the frequency doubles. This is proof that you can get energy from other people. You can get energy from conversation. I get energy from these challenges just because I know that you guys are receiving value and I know that it's making a positive change in your life. So I have I don't have a script, by the way. I'm not reading off of anything. I'm just speaking off the top of my head because I just get energy and I get excitement from this because I know that my frequency is leaving my body and it's hitting yours and it's increasing your level of energy, your attentiveness. You're taking this education and you're going to get inspired to make a change. And that's just enlightening to me. And the other thing that the law of interference says is it's called destructive interference. It says if two frequencies of opposite wavelength meet, they cancel each other out. This is why sometimes you can't put a finger on why somebody rubs you the wrong way. You can't specifically isolate it. That's because of the frequency mismatch between you two. And we call this intuition. It's not intuition. It is a sensitivity to frequency. And all human beings are sensitive to frequency. Some mammals like dolphins use frequency to communicate. Whales do the same thing. Human beings have a less of that sense of frequency, but it is innately tuned into every single one of us to pick up on the frequency of other people. You've heard me talk before about how the most powerful frequency to leave a human being's body is the frequency of authenticity. Women are especially sensitive to this. That's why my wife all the time will tell me, I don't like that guy. Something's up with what he's saying, and I can't put a finger on it. She can't put a finger on it, and then 6 months later, turns out to be true. How many times has that happened in your lifetime, right? And these are phenomenon from physics. This is not spiritual mumbo jumbo. This is a physical phenomenon that is documented in the physics journals. So I don't know how we banged that left turn right there, but we did. So I want to get to some of the most common questions about fasting. We have about 25 minutes left before we switch over to the VIP. So I'm going to read some of the most commonly asked questions, and I'm just going to answer them as they come in. How should we break our fast? What foods are the best to eat to ease back in? Soft foods. So here's what you want to avoid. High fiber and high volume of food. Some of the best things to break your fast with are berries, yogurts. I prefer whole fat Greek yogurts. You can also get vegan yogurts if you are a vegan. Soups, my favorite is bone broth. Bone broth is an excellent way for you to break your fast. Smoothies are a great way for you to break your fast. Not a lot of raw vegetables, not steak, chicken, or salmon just yet, not salads. Those are very rough on the digestive system. You want the peristaltic activity, the intestinal motility to restart again. And you want that working when you put really solid food in. By the middle of tomorrow, you can go back to your normal diet. So in the morning, opt for soups, opt for things like bone broth, yogurts, berries, or steamed vegetables. Also, boiled eggs, even scrambled eggs are also pretty easy on the digestive system. If you're an egg eater, I just wouldn't add the meats or avocados to that, just right out of the gate. Magna Anna Sonoka. Any tips on how not to jump on the food and overeat? My mind body really feels panic when seeing the food and craving it. You are not alone. Remember that our mind is telling us to eat. See, what's really interesting is ancestrally embedded in our brain is a hierarchical prioritization. There are priorities that your brain has that you don't know about. And your brain is nasty. Your brain is like the little Kim Jong-un of dictators. It sits up there and it takes everything for itself. It's like the honey badger. It does not give a hoot, right? If it wants calcium, it will leach it from the bones. If it wants amino acids, it will strip it from lean muscle. If it wants sugar, it will activate the RF1A2 receptor on the back of your tongue, and it will give you a dopamine reward, literally a drug reward of elevated mood for giving it food. So these are some of the most powerful cravings. If you have never been or never known an addict, you are now experiencing what those people feel every single minute of every day when they are separated from that substance, right? So imagine somebody that has been chronically dependent on alcohol or nicotine or any other compound. The gentleman that confessed his heroin addiction here, he will tell you that almost every minute of every day when he was not high, his body was trying to get to that compound. He was craving that compound. This is the same thing with food. We don't need it. We want it. It's not required, it's desired. And if you learn to override that desire, that is one of the most powerful mental things that you can do. And you will feel really good tomorrow when you have overridden that desire. And now you know what it's like to walk a few steps in the shoes of somebody who actually has a true physical addiction. Multiple people, Gary, I've been drinking just Echo water for 48 hours. I'm super foggy, vision's weak. My mouth feels metallic and dry. Is this food, sugar withdrawals? I would actually, you can take a break from the hydrogen water and you can alternate between hydrogen water and spring water. Very often when you don't have the hydrophiles to absorb hydrogen water, you can start to feel that foggy sensation. So if you alternate between spring water and hydrogen water, put the sea salt in the mineral water, it should negate that feeling. You're just getting high part per million hydrogen only without anything to buffer it. So I should have actually talked about that on the first day of the fast. I'm glad that you brought that up, whoever asked that question. So alternate between hydrogen and spring water. If you're already feeling foggy for the rest of the day, just stick to spring water. Okay. Sean, I'm very curious about a return to eating protocol after the fast to ease back into eating without shocking the system. Is there any info on this that's specific and less generic? Also, do we begin eating again at 6 p.m. on day 3 or wait until the morning of day 4? This is my first fast and it's been great. Very surprised how easy it was and how easy it's been. I truly expected it to be harder and have more craving. Sean, that is an amazing message. I find that people fall into those 1 or 2 categories. They are on the struggle bus the entire time until they have a breakthrough, or it ends up not being that difficult for them. And this has to do with where they started from a blood sugar perspective. Remember this about blood sugar, guys. When your blood sugar is falling, you get very hungry. Once your blood sugar has fallen, you are no longer hungry, because we have these responses in the body that if we keep sending a hunger response, and the body doesn't respond, we shut it off. This is very often why people that are the most dehydrated have lost the sensation for thirst. I can't tell you how many clients of mine come in and I look at their blood work and I'm like, oh my God, you are so dehydrated that you can go an entire day without drinking water and your body will never remind you to drink. You're not thirsty. If you've ever gone to a restaurant and when you got to the restaurant, you were so hungry that you ordered everything on the menu, and then by the time the food came out, because it took so long, you were no longer hungry, you're experiencing the phenomenon, because when you got to the restaurant, your blood sugar was falling. By the time the food came out, your blood sugar had fallen. So you're experiencing this phenomenon in real time. It's very, very common. So if we can get to the point where our blood sugar is low, not going off a cliff, but it's low, the hunger starts to dissipate and you won't be driven to eat. I will put some of these foods on either the Ultimate Human website or into the chat so you guys can have something to refer to when I just said not so generic. Whole fat Greek yogurt, organic blueberries, organic strawberries, soups of any kind. I prefer single soups, meaning like a tomato soup, a squash soup, single ingredient soups. Don't put a whole bunch of stuff in there. The best way is with soft foods and liquids, steamed vegetables. So we just ease into digestion, and you break your fast tomorrow morning, ideally. But if you really are struggling, later today, you can break your fast with some bone broth before bed tonight. Please try to hold on until tomorrow. Make it to some soft boiled eggs. Make it to a bowl of bone broth in the morning. Make it to your coffee. You get to put cream back in it. Not sugar, but cream back in it, or acid kicking alkalizer, and ease your way out of this fast. Please don't eat a big breakfast, especially croissants, bagels, white flour, white bread, those kinds of high folic acid meals, to break a fast. Ryan Malloy, do we have to go to bed on an empty stomach tonight? My preference would be that you do go to bed on an empty stomach if you've had 2 nights of sleep interruption and you've made it all this way to day 3. You can have a bone broth tonight before bed, but ideally you would suffer your way into bed tonight and wake up tomorrow feeling really, really refreshed and like you've done something really special. But you've gotten a lot of the benefits of fasting. It's just the longer that we can hold on, the more benefit we're going to get. Is it normal to see blurry? I wonder what that is. Detoxing my eyes? No, it's actually not detoxing your eyes. This is your blood sugar getting really, really low. So if you start to feel woozy or short of breath, these are the people that should break the fast with a little bit of bone broth. I talked to a gentleman yesterday. I think his handle was Big Red. He's probably on here right now. And I reminded him, he's a type 1 diabetic. I reminded him that if you really start to get blurry vision, short of breath, really woozy or nauseous, then by all means break your fast with bone broth. You will fast mimic and not be fully fasted, so you're still getting a lot of the benefits. Mike Downing, what if you find yourself not very hungry at all after 42 hours? I've been vigilant about this fast. That's excellent. That means that you are probably insulin sensitive, meaning that your blood sugar is now low, but it's not driving really, really low. Your body has shifted into a state of ketosis, and you are still eating. You're just eating yourself. And what you're eating in yourself, your body's not eating. I'm sorry, you're not eating, but your body is. It's just eating you. And what it's doing is it's efficiently turning cells into amino acids and fat into energy. So that is a great sign. So congratulations. Michael Irizarry, can you talk about bowel movements as we ease back into eating? Yes, I spoke about them a little bit in the beginning. It always comes to bowel movements when we talk about a fast. So there are 2 or 3 things that are very, very common. First of all, if you are regular, meaning you wake up every morning and within an hour or 2, you have your first bowel movement, maybe even have a second bowel movement during the day, and you actually have regular intestinal motility, you don't find that you have a lot of constipation, irritability, cramping, diarrhea. You don't switch between different types of bowel sensations. If you're regular, you will usually find that you don't have a bowel movement for 48 hours, maybe even longer. If you are not regular, generally what you will experience days 2 and days 3 are watery stools, and they can be yellow watery stools. So don't be afraid of that. That is perfectly normal. What happens when we take in a lot of fluids? Remember, in our colon, the job of our colon, you have a small intestine, and then your small intestine, it's something called the ileocecal valve, dumps into the large intestine or the colon. And then it has sort of this upside down U shape, the ascending, the transverse, and the descending. It can actually store a lot of bulk in there. And the colon's job is to resorb water. That's the colon's job. So if it resorbs too much water, you have constipation. If it resorbs not enough water, you have diarrhea. Well, if you actually don't have contents in the bowel for it to draw water out of, it will absorb some water and leave a lot of water in the bowel, which is why you have loose stool. So that's perfectly normal to have loose stools. Do not think that there's anything wrong with you. That is a perfectly normal reaction. Jen Ozera, how do I know if I'm in ketosis? Well, there's a couple of ways to test if you're in ketosis. If you haven't eaten for 48 hours, you are in ketosis. I promise you that. But if you want to test, there's 3 types of tests you can do. There are saliva ketosis strips. There is a finger prick test. You can buy these off of Amazon. They're pretty inexpensive. And there is a urine keto test that you can do at home. All these tests are less than probably $15, and they'll have multiple kits that come with them, either saliva, blood, or urine. And if you don't want to prick your finger, obviously urine and saliva are the easiest ways. Jen, my mother has 1 kidney, lupus, and bariatric surgery. Is it still safe for her to do a 3-day water fast? Absolutely. She doesn't have blood sugar regulatory issues, which you didn't mention in that. Very often people that have that myriad of symptoms also have blood sugar regulation. But in the absence of that, this could be one of the healthiest things that she's done, right? So lupus is autoimmune. I'm not sure why she had bariatric surgery. I'm assuming for morbid obesity. And so all of these things are the polar opposite of, they sharpen the immune system. They give the intestinal tract a break. Lawrence Ibrahim, what benefits would we gain from fasting, say 1 day longer than the 3 days? Now we talked about this yesterday. I'm going to break my fast in the morning. You are welcome to go another 24 hours. If you go beyond 5 to 7 days, that is what we call a medically supervised fast. Super important that you get blood work and you're observed during that fast. Someone doesn't have to be staring at you, but that you actually get some biomarkers so that you don't actually harm your physiology through a prolonged fast. Most people can do that. 1 day longer should not harm you. If you feel really good when you wake up tomorrow, maybe break your fast at noon, or maybe break your fast at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. You do not, there's no rule of thumb that says you have to wake up and break your fast first thing in the morning, okay? Cal, can you walk us through your typical diet and give us an idea of how to eat these next few days? Yes, I wish we could pick this camera up. I'd take you right in my kitchen and show you what I'm gonna eat. Maybe we should do more of that. In fact, if you guys would like that, maybe put that request into the chat, because if things like me showing you more daily meals, even as I'm preparing them, or what I'm stocking my fridge with, if you would find that helpful, I'm happy to do those. If you like the things that I do called lateral shifts, I don't like to feel like I'm lecturing. That's why I don't post those so often. If you like the idea of the lateral shifts, where I take any food that you like to eat, or any snack that you or your kids like to have, and I just laterally shift it to something with the identical flavor profile, but just massively change the nutrient profile, just ask in the chat, and I'll make a conscious effort to do more of those. I love lateral shifts and dietary advice. So here's my dietary advice, sort of top to bottom, okay? I'm not an advocate of a particular type of diet. The carnivore MD, Paul Saladino, just left yesterday, and he had stayed with me for 5 days. So obviously we ate a lot of meat. I am a big fan of whole foods in their natural state. The reason for this is, again, I've talked about the blue zones. If you look at the blue zone researcher, if you've watched some of the blue zone documentaries, what you will find is no continuity between the diets. Meaning there wasn't one particular diet that jumped out, right? Yes, some of the vegans lived a tremendously long time. Some of the vegetarians lived to be hypercentenarians. Some of the high carbohydrate eaters, Sardinia, lived very long times. In fact, they had hypercentenarianism, right? In Singapore, one of the highest meat consumptions per capita in the world, one of the longest life expectancies on the planet. France, throwing everything off, right? They're eating cheese, dairy, they're eating meats, and they're drinking wine, like all the things that conventional wisdom would tell you not to do. One common theme between Mediterranean diets, the Sardinian diets, the meat diets in Singapore, and the French diets, where these were whole food diets. Dairy was usually raw. The wines usually did not have sulfites. The bread was made from scratch. The pasta was homemade. The berries were picked that day. The vegetables were picked that day. There were not a lot of farm-raised, commercialized, pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, preservatives. There were not diets that were laden in processed foods where you saw hypercentenarianism or people living beyond age 100. So the continuity between all of the foods was that they were whole foods. If you read the longevity diet, written by Dr. Walter Longo, you'll also see a lot of this research. So I recommend a whole food diet. And I try to, it seems like you're working really, really hard and it's so difficult to eat healthy, but what you're really doing is working hard to get back to the basics, to get back to the diet that we ate 50 years ago. A good rule of thumb is if your great-grandmother wouldn't recognize it, don't eat it. Somebody gave me a, what was it called? It was, I don't want to attack any specific brand. This one was called a One Bar. And it was birthday cake flavor. And a buddy of mine was like, dude, you got to try this, man. I go, well, I don't eat that stuff. So he's like, no, you got to try this one. And I looked at the back of the label and I was like, yeah, this is not really my game. But I broke the end of it off, this birthday cake flavored One Bar. And I put it in my mouth and I started to chew it. And it literally tasted like kerosene. And you realize that your taste buds will begin to orient themselves towards what you put in. It's just like we see what we're looking for. Your body will start to believe that that is real food. The more processed foods you eat, the more food dyes you allow in your diet, the more MSG you allow in your diet, the more you will actually crave non-foods. And so, he, on the other hand, was like, this was the greatest tasting thing since sliced bread. He couldn't believe that it only had like 1 gram of sugar or 2 grams of sugar and the rest was sugar alcohols. He was going on and on about this thing. It tasted like processed chemicals to me. So back to a whole foods diet. I am big on eggs. I'm big on avocados. I'm very big on berries, on organic maple syrup, on raw milks. I have raw buffalo and raw goat milk in my refrigerator. I have raw buffalo and raw goat milk cheeses in my refrigerator, despite conventional wisdom. By the way, I just did get a calcium arterial scan, and I also did the CT angio and DEXA scan. I'm happy I meant to actually put those on Instagram. I'm going to put those on Instagram. I had a mold and mycotoxin scan. I had a glycan age test showing that my age, I'm 53 years old, that my age is actually 25 years younger biologically. So 10 minutes left. So we're going to try to get to a few more questions before we wrap up and head into our VIP call with a special guest. Guys, if you're not a VIP, today is the day to do it. I promise you, more value than $47 will come from me being a VIP. Alexandra Demova, is there a difference for fasting in men and women due to women's cycles? Yes, let me touch on that. That's a great question. Is it harder to do a 3-day water fast for a woman mid-cycle than when they are very low on all sorts of hormones? Yes. So let me just tell you quickly the difference between men and women with fasting in general. It's generally easier for a woman to do a 3-day water fast once in a while than it is to intermittent fast. Some of the worst endocrine disasters I have ever seen in clients of mine are young menstruating women with a very narrow feeding window. It is very hard to time the expansion and contraction of your feeding window with your cycle. It depends on whether a woman is ovulating, follicular, or luteal, what stage of the cycle that they are in, where their estrogen is, what their water retention is like. So a rule of thumb for women is unless you are insulin resistant or pre-diabetic, I am personally not a fan of intermittent fasting for women, especially with short windows. Dr. Walter Longo's research for women has proven this, that 12-hour feeding windows, most feeding windows are up to 17 hours. That 12-hour feeding windows are fine for the majority of women, especially menstruating women. And you could theoretically change your feeding window depending on your cycle, but that is really hard to do and takes a lot of discipline. So young menstruating women, if you're listening to this, be cautious about intermittent fasting with a very narrow window, okay? Anika Agrinas, is it okay to drink a tablespoon of juice if hypoglycemic hits you hard? Yes, absolutely it's okay to have a tablespoon of juice if you're hypoglycemic. You can also fix the hypoglycemia usually if you catch it early enough before your before your glucose really starts to drop. you can usually fix it with bone broth and ease your way back out of that hypoglycemic state. But if you do become rapidly hypoglycemic, then by all means, a little bit of juice, a tablespoon at a time, is absolutely fine. Guys, I want to just thank you guys again for really entrusting me on this journey. This 3-day journey just makes me so proud of you guys for sticking with it and powering through this. The important part is that, we learned the lesson that we actually are stronger in the mind than we are in the body. And when we can overpower our cravings and our sensitivities and our urgency and what we think is a necessity to eat, which is really just a desire to eat, you really build stamina and you build willpower and you start forming the foundation for really healthy habits. You start saying, you know what, I'm okay being a little hungry to just not eat that right now until I can get to some food that will serve me. I really think about food this way, guys. This is our temple. God handed this to us. It's the only vehicle that we have, right? This is going to either make us rich or make us poor. It's going to make us happy, going to make us sad. Our families are dependent upon us. And so we really need to treat it like a temple. Form that invisible fence around yourself. Begin to filter your environment before it gets to your body, your water, your food, even your relationships, right? Toxicity exists in everything. Think about what kinds of things am I cleaning my countertops with? What kind of things am I washing my dishes with? What kind of things am I washing my laundry with? Every time we micro-poison ourselves, we take one step closer to disease or pathology. So being healthy is about getting back to the basics. So if you're waking up tomorrow morning and breaking your fast, remember to ease back into it with things such as berries, eggs, avocado, bone broth. I'm sorry, I couldn't read the bottom of it. I look forward to hearing about your experiences, guys. I want you to put whatever questions you have into the chat. And I am super, super appreciative of you guys giving me time today and your trust. The biggest gift that you could give me is to get somebody else to do what you are doing right now. That would be the biggest gift that you can give to me. Thank you guys so much for attending. Gio, we're going to switch over to VIP. Oh, we still have 3 minutes left. Okay, so for those of you that are staying on for the VIP, great. For those of you that are going to become a VIP, also great. I've got Dr. David Minkoff, one of the most impactful functional wellness physicians in the world, that is actually coming on to talk to us in the VIP chat. If you are on the very first challenge, he was one of the 3 physicians that I brought on. I brought on Dr. Lyon, I brought on Dr. Rafael Gonzalez, and I brought on Dr. Minkoff. So you're about to see Dr. Minkoff again. He's going to give us all kinds of great advice. And then, of course, I'm going to open it up for direct questions from you guys. So if you're not a VIP, now's the time to do it, guys. All right, I'm scrambling to the bathroom. I will see you VIPs in the VIP room in about 1 minute. My water fast has to come out. about 100 of them on?
We actually have 180.
All right. Hey guys, we're back. My bladder's empty, so I'm good for the next hour. I got tough towards the end of that talk. I'm sure you guys felt the same thing. Guys, one of my sincere mentors is on the line with us now. Dr. David Minkoff is arguably one of the leading functional medicine experts in the world. He is licensed to practice medicine, unlike myself. I think the world of him and his family. I'm very close to his wife and his son. I've known them for many years. He's the founder of Body Health. So when you're taking the perfect aminos, that is his product. It was actually formulated out of necessity. He did the same thing with the metal and chemical free cleanse. He formulated that to get the heavy metals out of a family member of his that was suffering from heavy metal toxicity. The thing that I love about Dr. Minkoff is that he is out there every day on the front lines practicing functional medicine. So when you see supplements grow out of a need that actually serve a need, and you actually see the outcomes in human beings, those are very, very valid outcomes. You know that I do not endorse products or services that I do not use every day in my daily life. You will never see ad reads on my podcast. You will never see me endorsing products or services because somebody has just paid me for an endorsement. They're things I sleep on, they're things I drink, they're supplements I take, they're foods that I eat. And my vision for the Ultimate Human platform is to give the best products a voice, is to try to push them up through the noise and give them a voice, which is very often why I will even shout out my competitors, which Dr. Minkoff, some of Dr. Minkoff's products are in direct competition with what I offer, but he has better products in some categories than even I do. And the other thing I like about Dr. Minkoff is how many triathlons have you completed, full distance?
43.
You're muted.
Oh,
you look good, but we can't hear you.
Thank you.
Look at all those triathlon medals behind him, guys. How many have you done?
I've done 43 full distance Ironmans.
And if you don't mind, how old are you, Dr. Minkoff?
My birthday's tomorrow, and I'll be 76.
So he'll be 76 years old tomorrow. And every week, I swear, his wife and he send me a picture of him on the podium winning some kind of race somewhere around the state. And so if you can take advice from anybody, you can take advice from Dr. Minkoff. And when I talked about the low glycemic stocking horse method of treating cancer, Dr. Minkoff is the one that has pioneered that and has treated thousands of patients for cancer in his clinic in Tampa, Florida. So we're really honored to have Dr. Minkoff on. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Gary. Good to see you.
It's so good to see you too. So This is the, hold on, Siri just thinks I'm talking to her. I'm not talking to you, Siri. So first of all, these are all science nerds. They're all my science spirit animals. This is my VIP Rule Brecka's group, so that a lot of them have been with me for a long time. They're really into the science of human physiology, what they can do to push the boundaries of optimal health. So I wanted to open the discussion talking about the benefits of fasting. I know you actually use fasting in your practice. You use ketogenic dieting in your treatment for patients that have all forms of cancer. You've been very, very successful in your treatment outcomes and remission outcomes with cancer. I'm just all inspired by it myself. So if we could start the discussion off by a little bit of you as a functional medicine physician talking about the benefits of fasting. We're in day 3 right now, so some people are on the struggle bus, Dr. Minkoff. A lot of us are on the struggle bus.
Yeah, are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's my late lunch snack.
Oh, good for you.
I am just stuffed.
You know, last time you did this, I did 2 extra days. I did 5 days.
Yes.
And it chilled out. After the 3rd day, it actually chilled out, and the last 2 days weren't so bad. But it's well done to all of you that are doing it. I think that the physical aspects of it, which are really helpful, is you just clean stuff out. And it gives your body, I mean, the practice of patients that I see, everyone is full of all kinds of stuff that they're not supposed to have in their body. And when you have stuff that you're not supposed to have in your body, it causes chemical poisoning of your system. And just doing pure water and letting the metabolites get eaten up and your liver to get a little bit of a break allows you to get rid of this extra stuff. And there's a rejuvenating effect, and there's a growth hormone spiking effect, and it really is helpful. And I think half of it too is just the overcoming the barrier. You know, my favorite quote of yours is aging is the relentless pursuit of comfort. And fasting is not comfortable. And I think that the effect of sort of mental, emotional effect on health is huge. And that when you fast, you get stronger, and all the greats, all the great prophets fasted. And I think it makes you stronger in addition to the physical benefits that you see from just giving your body a rest for a day at a time or 3 days every now and then to help it rejuvenate itself. And I think the proof of it is that when you look at levels, like every day, so if you count up the number of cells in an average person's body, it's about in the 100 trillions. So it's a lot. Every day, our cells are turning over. So about 10 billion cells a day get recycled. But they might not recycle fast enough. And then you have cells that are there that are kind of sick. They haven't been recycled yet. When they're sick, they discharge toxic stuff. They influence their neighbors. They send messenger molecules to their neighbors, which poison them. And I think the beauty of this autophagy process is, okay, you starve them for 3 days. They die off quick. They're done. They get extinguished. Parts of those cells get reused. And you just get an elevation of the whole system and the whole physiology so that it works better. And then you start fresh because new cells are being generated as soon as the old ones go. And when they're regenerated, you have a better, newer body that works better and that will age better.
So yeah, I wholly agree with that. Would you mind describing some of the process that you use when you treat cancer patients? And the reason why I want you to discuss this for a minute is that he uses a lot of ancient wisdom and ancient practice with the best of what modern medicine has to offer. And by ancient practice, I mean like by putting the body into a state of ketosis, by really reducing the glycemic profile, using glucose as a stalking horse to introduce poison into a cancer cell, to me is a very sensical approach. It's not that novel. It just really makes common sense. And just in broad strokes, could you sort of talk about how you approach patients that are suffering from cancer and what's a little different about what you do, the testing and the and how you're using the basics of human physiology to enhance the outcomes of modern medicine?
Yeah, I mean, what inspired me in this is that if you look at the outcomes of people who have stage 2, 3, or 4 cancer, the cancer is not only just in the local area where a surgeon could cut it out. The cancer is spread into the wider area of the breast or around the prostate or in the lung. It's gotten into lymph nodes. That the success rate of modern cancer therapy on those cases of cancer where it's later stage cancer it just isn't very good. And it hasn't gotten any better in the last 50 years. There's been a lot of new methodologies and a lot of new experiments with trying things, but the outcomes just aren't very good. And the thing that I like to look at is, okay, what's the 5-year survival? If you've got stage 3 colon cancer, using the traditional methods, what's the 5-year survival? Or of stage 3 or 4 breast cancer or lung cancer or pancreatic cancer? And the survival rates are not very good. And so what we've looked at is, okay, how could we do that better? What could we do that might improve outcome because with traditional therapy, the usual methods are surgery, which is sometimes fine, radiation, sometimes fine if it's very localized, but mostly it's chemotherapy with no attention. And so the problem with chemotherapy is that these drugs are toxic. They kill cancer cells. They also kill regular cells. And the cells that they target are fast-growing cells. So the gut lining cells, your immune cells, if you've got hair, your hair cells. And so they're very toxic. And so I learned about 25 years ago from a Mexican oncologist who said, you know, if you do a typical scan to see where is the person's cancer, it's called a PET scan. And a PET scan uses a glucose molecule where the glucose is tagged so that you can follow where did it go. And the person gets an intravenous dose of it. And in about 45 or an hour, a scanner is done to see where did the glucose go. And what you find is that fast-growing abnormal cancer cells take up more glucose. They're growing faster. They need more fuel. Their primary fuel is glucose. And so the arm is taking up glucose and the lung is taking up glucose. But if the person has a breast cancer or a lung cancer, the glucose uptake in those tissues can be very much higher. And it can be up to 70 times higher. It's the highest one I've ever seen. But sometimes 5 or 10 or 15 times higher.
His name's also Max.
And so if you give somebody a high dose of chemotherapy, everybody gets it. And what we do is we give them a dose of chemotherapy that we can actually measure which chemotherapies are the best ones for that tumor, because we can measure the tumor cells in the blood. The laboratory can do sensitivity tests and say, hey, these 3 chemos plus vitamin C plus curcumin plus vitamin D, these are the things that kill tumor cells the best. So we can use those to target the person and not just use some off the shelf, which is the way oncology works, is look, you've got this, here's what we give you. So we can target it. And then if we give somebody, if somebody comes in fasting and their glucose level, say, is 90, and then give them some IV insulin, insulin will make their glucose go down. And when their glucose is down, say take it down to 45, 40, then give them only a 10% dose of the chemotherapies that are appropriate for their cancer, and then follow it with glucose. The tumor is taking up 70 or 50 times or 20 times the amount of glucose. The chemo is there with the glucose. And so that cancer cell gets a huge dose of chemotherapy, and the healthy cells only get the 10%. So we don't see the toxicity. And then if you combine it with other things like intravenous vitamin C or curcumin or wormwood oil extracts, these things also kill tumor cells, but they also protect healthy cells from the effect of the chemotherapy. And so we're able to target it so that our patients are living longer because our therapies are not killing them. They're actually helping them. And so we're seeing very good results with this. It's still a challenge for everyone. And we're doing other things at the same time, like hyperbaric oxygen and pulse magnetic field treatments. And now we're using some very high-powered lasers. If you combine laser with some natural substances that are photoactive, like if you do red light with methylene blue or with vitamin B2, you can activate those substances, concentrate them in the area where the tumor is, and then the substances themselves will start killing tumor cells. We use ketogenic diet in everyone. Tumors fuel, the preferred fuel for tumors is glucose and an amino acid called glutamine. That's what they like to eat. And if you put someone on a ketogenic diet and their fasting glucoses will stay low, and they're not getting glucose spikes when they eat. So on a ketogenic diet, we have all our patients wear cutaneous glucose monitors, so we can follow what they're eating. and make sure that they're not getting glucose spikes by what they're eating. So if they have a piece of fruit, their glucose is going to spike. If they have potatoes or rice, their glucoses are going to spike. So we keep them on it's a high fat, moderate protein diet, very low carbohydrates. So their glucoses stay low because we don't want the tumors to be able to eat. And our healthy cells do fine with fatty acids. But the tumor cells prefer glucose and glutamine, so we try to restrict them. And the whole idea of this thing is cancer therapy is like, regular cancer therapy is like nuclear bomb inside a person. If it's a radiation bomb or a chemical bomb, that's tough. And what we're trying to do is this concept of death by 1,000 paper cuts instead of a nuclear bomb. So vitamin C is a paper cut, and low-dose chemo is a paper cut, and hyperbaric oxygen is a paper cut, and oxygen baths are a paper cut. But you get enough of these paper cuts, you can kill cancer cells, and you can preserve the person so that when they finish your therapy, they don't look like death warmed over, and they can have a future life where you've enhanced their health. You haven't just tried to kill tumors and then they died in the process. So that's the basic idea.
Yeah, that is amazing. I will tell you guys, I've seen miracles with my own eyes out of Dr. Minkoff's practice, and I'm an enormous fan of using physiology along with modern medicine to target these things. It's not an anti-modern medicine approach. It's a pro-physiology approach. So you use the physiology and the power of the human body in conjunction with the best that modern medicine has to offer, and you're really bringing a tank to a fist fight. I'd love it if you have a few minutes to bring a few people to the stage. Just lots of hands raised, and see if we could just answer some questions until you're out of time. But this is because this is my VIP group. I really try to pour myself into these guys and really try to give them more value than they're expecting. And one of the favorite parts of this whole thing is where they get to answer questions on a stage and everybody gets to hear the answer. Again, by way of disclaimer, I'm not licensed to practice medicine. Dr. Minkoff is, but he's not your treating physician, so he can't give you medical advice, but he can certainly answer, your questions to the best of his knowledge. If we all just sort of acknowledge.
But before anybody asks a question, I just did a review on someone that's been in the clinic for 6 weeks, and he came here from North Carolina. And he had really severe problems with mood, with fatigue, with pain, and with digestion. And he went through our program. And one of the things that we found on him, and if this is a very high point, is that he had some root canals. And when we did the cone beam, the CT scan to look at his teeth, his root canals were abscessed. And one of the first thing on my list was to have him get the root canals, go to the biological dentist who's around the corner from me, and get those root canals extracted. And he said to me that he has had for the last 20 years, actually since the root canals were put in, but he didn't notice it up front, and he was always told that he had an enlarged spleen. And he had a swelling over the left side of so the spleen sits below the left lower rib cage. It's actually right underneath your rib cage on the left side. And it's an organ. It's an organ that makes blood and it filters blood. And it's very important in anti-infection. And so he had always been told by doctors that he had an enlarged spleen. And he always could see this sort of bubble below his rib cage where his spleen stuck out. And he just told me this. I just finished with him before I started. And he said, in the chair, when the root canal was pulled, he felt kind of a jolt over this area of his side where the root canal, where the spleen was. And he said that swelling that had been there for 20 years and noticed by doctors doing exams on him, that it was almost immediately gone. And when I examined him today, because when he came in, his spleen was enlarged. And when I palpated his abdomen, I could feel his spleen come down where you're not supposed to be able to feel it. And after he told me that today, I said, get up on the table, let's check it. And I checked it. The spleen probably was engorged and swollen as a result of the toxicity of the root canal in his mouth. And I think the spleen did a dump and shrunk.
I've had similar experiences, which I've talked about very publicly. If you guys haven't seen my podcast with Dr. Gandhi, Dr. Jagar Gandhi in New York, he's worked on every single member of my family, all of my kids and my wife. I would show you my root canal, so it's a little gross. I'm actually waiting for a post to be put in right now, but I had a very similar experience with him where I had left anterior shoulder pain, left lower lobe lung pain, and a left toe numbness. And I had that tooth extracted. It had a root canal in it. I had it extracted. I had it cleaned with red light, green laser, ozone gas. And I had something called PRF, which is platelet-rich fibrin. It's very similar to platelet-rich plasma, which is I had my own platelets packed into the socket and then a stitch shut. The bone closed and formed a really dense bone. And then he buried a, wait, are we frozen? We're completely frozen. This is frozen. Oh, maybe they're not frozen online. But he buried a porcelain socket down in there, and now I'm just waiting to have the cap put on. But all three of those symptoms went away instantly. My wife had an L5-S1 fusion and post-surgery has had 10 years of low back pain at L5-S1. I always attributed it to the fusion. Around the same time, she had impacted wisdom teeth that were infected, but she took a course of antibiotics and the infection went away. And after she had those wisdom teeth extracted and those sockets cleaned, she hasn't had a day of back pain since. Those are anecdotal stories. I realize that, but I am an enormous believer in biological dentistry as well. And I really try to get the message out about that. I actually had the godfather of biological dentistry on my podcast in London, the one that trained my physician in New York. That podcast will be airing over the next few weeks, and it'll just blow your mind with the research that's coming out between the connection between oral cavity and cardiovascular disease, the oral cavity and the gut microbiome, the oral cavity and all kinds of organ systems in the body. Remember, when you get calcium in the lining of your heart, right? When you get bone formation in an artery, you got to ask yourself, what cells are capable of making bone? You know, calcium just doesn't migrate into the artery and then form bone. You know, calcium has to combine with phosphorus to form hydroxyapatite, and then you have a calcification. Well, what types of cells can form calcium deposits? Well, bone cells can, but you don't find bone cells in the heart. But guess what else can form those deposits? Plaquing from your mouth. The same bacteria that form these plaques are capable of forming these calcifications. And ironically, you find the same bacteria in cardiovascular disease and calcifications that you find in the oral cavity. So it may be 10 years before we make the direct connection in a randomized clinical trial between these plaques in the mouth and the formation of calcifications in the artery. But if you just distill this down to common sense, it makes sense. That's why brushing and flossing is so important. Okay, let's put a couple people up on stage. So can my team throw a few up on stage? Because I know Dr. Minkoff's time is valuable. All right.
How's it
Hey,
going?
man, Gary?
Yes.
Well, you got a great first name. We'll start
Same with
there.
you. Same with you. So I have two questions, but they're really simple ones. One,
Okay.
filtered water and Baja mineral salt. What's your take on that? Is that good?
Huge
Bad?
fan of both. I'm a huge fan of 4-stage RO filtered, which demineralizes the water, and using Baja Gold sea salt to remineralize it. And the reason for that is that we don't want to drink demineralized water like distilled water. We want to drink mineral-rich water like spring water. And so I'm a huge fan of adding Baja Gold sea salt to your drinking water. I think it's the cheapest life hack out there. $15 bag of that will last you 5 years.
Is it something that I could add? Because I usually drink 2 to 3 liters of water a day anyways, regardless.
Yep,
of...
add a quarter teaspoon to your first liter in the morning.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome.
And my second quick question, I work with a microscope for a living.
So does
What
Dr. Minkoff.
can I do for my next fasting to make that a little bit easier for me? Because I've had kind of a struggle the last couple of days. Today's my last day, so I've made
What
it.
did you say? What can you do to make it easier for yourself?
Yeah, it was so I identify mosquitoes for a living to send in for vector control laboratory and testing. It was a little difficult yesterday and the day before. I kept getting dizzy spells and everything, trying to focus and concentrate through my microscope. Besides stepping away from it and taking a break, is there anything that I could do possibly beforehand before I start work?
Dr. Minkoff, you want to take that one?
I find that if you fast more often, just like 24 hours, you get way better at it. Like
Okay.
I did the 5-day fast. I worked that whole week.
Okay. This is my first fast, so.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. It's not easy. And then if you did, every other week, take a Friday or a Saturday and just don't eat for 24 hours,
Okay.
you get better at it and your body acclimates. And if you're like if you're on sort of a keto type diet and your body has learned to burn fat as its main fuel, it's also way easier.
Okay.
So I think it's practice makes easier.
Okay.
I agree.
Kind of what I figured. It was one of those things you just kind of have to suck it up and push through it. But yeah, I was just curious.
Awesome, Gary.
Awesome.
Hey, Chad.
I appreciate you guys.
We are so lucky to have Dr. Minkoff take time from his busy schedule to join us. So, Dr. Minkoff, thank you again. I know that you've got to run, but I'm just so grateful that you took some time to be on here. He's got amazing practice. If you ever find yourself in the unfortunate position or a loved one finds themselves in the unfortunate position, Dr. David Minkoff's practice is in Clearwater, Florida. And he's obviously very skilled at his craft. But Dr. Minkoff, thanks for being on with us, my friend.
Thanks, Gary. All the
Always
best
good
to all
to see
you.
you.
Good
All right.
job.
Keep winning. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
Hey, Chad.
Hey, Gary. Amazing to be on with you. Thank you. Love what you do.
Thank you.
Best investment on a budget. I want to real quick just give you, I've done the gene test. I'm on supplements, optimized TMG for that. I just did the blood testing, actually have a call with Justin Clark from your team.
Awesome.
Scheduled. He's going to go through my treatment plan. So that's in the process. What's the next best thing to do? Sauna, PEMF, Matt?
Yeah, so let's talk about the next thing, best thing to do, and let's just graduate this up in terms of zero cost, minimal cost, and then if you have a endless budget. So I would start with, again, getting back to the basics. I would start with developing a really good morning routine. And a good morning routine would incorporate these 5 things at zero cost, in my opinion. Waking up in the morning, hydrating with 8 to 10 ounces of mineralized water. Just taking Baja Gold sea salt, putting it in your water, and starting your day with 10 ounces of water. Literally hydrate and remineralize yourself first thing in the morning. The second thing I would do is I would always take my cold shower in the morning. Before you buy a cold plunge or get into ice baths, take a cold shower in the morning. By a cold shower, I mean finish your shower, lather up, under warm water, step out of that stream of water, turn it cold, and then step back into it and just deal with it for 1 to 3 minutes. When that's over, if you can, if you live in Florida like we do, get outside just for 10 minutes, expose your skin to sunlight. If you can, touch the surface of the earth. If you can't, like I can't up here on a balcony, 210 feet in the air, expose your skin to sunlight, do 3 rounds of 30 breaths. That's where I would start. And then I would begin to incorporate things like a non-negotiable exercise routine. It could be as simple as 30 minutes of walking, preferably outside, and then graduate from walking to weight-bearing exercise. Weightlifting outpaces cardiovascular exercise in every clinical study that I've ever seen. You can actually get your heart rate up enough to get cardiovascular benefits from weight training. So if you're limited on time, you don't have time to do both, weight training is absolutely the way to go. Muscle is our metabolic currency. It is a sponge for glucose. Grip strength is now directly related to longevity. Fall risk in older ages is one of the greatest risks to longevity. Don't wait to start a strength training routine until you're older. And then if, as the budget allows, you can do things for convenience, like get a PEMF mat, a pulse electromagnetic field mat. That's going to set you back about $5,000. It's a yoga mat. You put it right in your bed. You turn it on before you go to bed at night. You'll wake up alkaline every morning. I want to reiterate that you can get the same benefits from touching the surface of the earth. The second thing that I would get is I would think about a red light therapy device. You don't have to go to the whole $120,000 full power red light therapy bed. We sell red light panels. There are other companies that sell red light panels, but even minimal exposure to high powered red light between 680 and 1100 nanometers is so beneficial for cellular health. They make face masks. They make small lights that you can put around your neck for your jugulars. They make watches that are very powerful that will hit the blood as it's passing through the radial artery. Those are the kind of devices that I would invest in. In fact, I would make my financial success linked to the amount of money that I spend on biohacking options. And then eventually work your way into cold plunging. Start to do cold baths, graduate to ice baths, and then graduate, when your budget allows, to a cold water tub. But you can get yourself 80% of the way there for spending virtually nothing. Hydrating, sun exposure. You've done the best thing that you can do. You've gotten the gene test and you're supplementing for deficiency. That's the basics. Add perfect aminos to your morning routine. When you can afford one, I would get a hydrogen water bottle. That's where I would start my routine. You're muted. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. Just one quick clarification. You mentioned Element, I believe yesterday, or the doc you had on the first day said Element added to coffee does not break a fast. Is that correct?
That's this thing. This is what he uses to, oh wait, the camera's right there. This is an alkalizer. They come in these little packets and it won't break a fast. Yep. And basically when you have a cup of coffee, you just take one of these little packets out, you tear the top off it, you just dump it in the coffee and it will neutralize the acid. It won't change the taste of the coffee. Yep. The downside of coffee is the acidic nature of it. Oh, LMNT. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. LMNT. Sorry.
Yeah, LMNT is potassium, magnesium, and sodium. You can actually get potassium, magnesium, sodium, molybdenum, selenium, boron, silica, zinc, manganese, all from natural sea salt. So my preference would be this, and this is a fraction of the cost. If your budget allows, LMNT is fine. It tastes a little better because it's flavored, but my preference would be that you get your mineralization from natural sources like sea salt.
But the stevia, it doesn't break the fast that's in there, the flavor?
No.
Okay, perfect.
Nope. Stevia and monk fruit don't break a fast.
Love that.
All right, we got David waiting up. Thanks, brother. Great talking to you, Chad. Hi, David.
Hello?
Peter? Oh, hey, Peter.
Hey, how's it going, Gary?
Amazing, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. My question today is actually about my daughter. She's 8 years old and she struggles with, I would say, gut health. Like she has a lot of stomach pain. I had the same thing she had when I was her age, so I'm assuming she got that right from me. We are in the process of, we've been referred to the pediatrician for her. But until then, is there anything that you would suggest that I maybe ask the doctor to or test for? And then from the parent side, like my wife and I, is there anything we can do, like naturally, like supplements or something we should cut out or put into her diet?
No question. The very first thing I would do is I would get all of the folic acid out of her diet. Folic acid is found in fortified or enriched foods, right? All, in the United States, all grains, all flour, all rice, all pasta, all breads are sprayed with a chemical called folic acid, and this impairs intestinal motility. The fact that you and your daughter both had the same experience at the same age tells me that you are very likely MTHFR positive. You have the most common gene mutation in the world. This is highly linked to poor gut motility. When you change the motility of the gut, you get all the consequences of that: gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, irritability, cramping. And it's not related to what you eat. Your pediatrician is going to take you down the road of gut biome, stool testing, food sensitivity, food allergy testing, which is all fine. But if she had an allergy, you would know it. Every single time she ingested that food, she would have a flare-up. When it's inconsistent, or when she's eating the same things and she's having inconsistent responses to the same foods, that is not an allergy. Allergies are consistent. They are not transient. So my suggestion would be to get all of the fortified or enriched foods out of her diet. Cheetos, the fortified pasta, the enriched cereals, the enriched white breads, the bagels, those types of things. Spin the box around. If it's fortified or enriched, put it back on the shelf and opt for the organic or non-fortified version of those foods. In 7 days, you may see a completely different child in the house.
Okay, awesome. And yeah, I did do the test. I do have that gene deficiency, so I do know
That's
that.
exactly it.
Yeah, and I am going to be taking the supplements for them. They're just on order, but
They'll recommend the supplements for her too, generally gummies. Douglas has a great set of gummies. Pure Encapsulations has a great set of children's gummies, methylated multivitamins. Start with getting the folic acid out, and then you can add the methylated gummies. You may see an entirely different child.
Rick, thank you so much, Gary. I'm so appreciative. Thank you.
Of course. Okay, we still have to get the people from yesterday, so we're going to go in the order of the people from yesterday. So guys, just please try to keep your question to one question. I know that there's a lot of questions people have on their mind, but I really want to try to get through as many of these as we possibly can. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing amazing, man.
Good, good. Hey, I had that half a break with the calm tea, so I've cut out the green tea. I was wondering, what about that organic cacao powder? If you have like a hot chocolate or something like that, is that something
Organic
to stay away
cacao
from
powder
as
is
well?
amazing. Probably better for you than coffee because of the flavonoids and other things that are in there. And so there's polyphenols in there that are really, really, really good for you. So dried powdered, 100% organic cacao, stirred up. And then you can put things in there like whole raw cream, or if you like a sweetener, you can use a monk fruit sweetener. But those are excellent for you. I'm a huge fan.
Okay, so it doesn't have a high content of the quercetin like green tea.
Raw powdered cacao should not have, 100% cacao should not have high percentage quercetin.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Awesome, brother.
And
And then it's what, David? Oh, we're doing the ones from yesterday. Okay, that's why I don't see the names. Liz.
Hi, Gary. Thank you.
Been a
for
long
everything
time
you
since
do.
I've seen the chalkboard, Liz.
Yeah, well, you know.
It's like third grade.
We're old school. Thank you for bringing the wellness sector to focus and getting us away from focusing on sickness.
Thank you.
My question is, you mentioned in one of your podcasts about using methylene blue eye drops. And so I'm asking, are you using the Mitozen eye drops? Is that what you
Yes,
did?
that's Dr. John Laurent's Mitozen. Those would be the only drops that I would trust to go into your eyes. You can take other oral forms of methylene blue. If you go to endalldisease.com, the author of the book, the guide to methylene blue, and that's where he sources it from. So you actually get pure sterile methylene blue, 10 milligrams in the morning, 10 milligrams at night.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're
I
so
appreciate
welcome. We're rolling through these, man. I'm making progress today. Hey, man. David.
Hey, Gary. Hey, Gary. How's it going? I'm over by Telluride, Colorado.
Oh, okay. I'm going to be in Colorado next week, in Pitkin, Colorado. That's where our retreat is.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Excellent. So this is my second fast with you. I took the genetic test a couple years ago, been on all the supplements, loving life. But my question is about my sister. She has bipolar, and she also has kidney disease. And I'm ordering the new genetic test for her. So I'm already doing that because I know she'll get benefit from that. But her kidney disease has become a real problem. And I had suggested that she get on the body health aminos and also trace minerals. And her protein levels were really, really high. And her doctor told her to go off the aminos and off the trace minerals.
No, not off the aminos and off the trace minerals, off of the proteins. So amino acids are the building blocks of proteins.
Right.
They are not proteins. Protein is what she has a difficult time breaking down. So if you're a slow methylator of protein, it rises in the blood, right? And it puts a lot of strain on the kidneys. The opposite is true. Decrease the protein and keep the amino acids. What she's having a hard time doing is converting amino acids into their proteins, not taking amino acids and building proteins in the tissue. So there's again, I'm not a physician. I'm not licensed to practice medicine.
Yeah,
I would do the exact opposite of that.
So how can I get her in touch with the doctor that would actually give her different advice? Who can I have her talk to?
You can call Dr. Sarda in our practice, Dr. Cass in our practice, Dr. Davidson in our practice. You can make an appointment when you get your gene test done. Ask to schedule a call with someone on my clinical team. I've got an incredible clinical team of licensed physicians that would give you that very same opinion. Interestingly, the same methylation pathways that are linked to bipolar, poor metabolism of catecholamines, are linked to poor methylation in the kidneys. I would not be surprised if she has a sequence of gene mutations that is because, again, when people give me a condition, I always try to convert it to physiology. So what is bipolar? Bipolar is a jump between a low-level emotional state, anger, despair, resentment, jealousy, to an elevated emotional state, passion, elation, joy, arousal, and then back down to a lower state. And you skip the normal cascade of emotions. Right. So you skip the normal sequence of what we call graduated emotional states. Most people don't go from really, really calm to insanely pissed off. Right. They will go from calm to alert, to focus, to oriented, to irritated, to angry, to now really manic. Right. Bipolar will skip those 6 intermediary steps and just jump to that manic state. This is a deficiency in neurotransmitters that assemble mood. The disease bipolar is a deficiency in neurotransmitters that are used to go from one graduated state of emotion to another graduated state of emotion. And so once we know it's a deficiency in neurotransmitters, we should go about replacing the neurotransmitters. And since we can't put those into the body, we need to methylate those on our own. Interestingly, the process of methylating neurotransmitters from amino acids is the same process that we methylate minerals in the blood in the kidney. So we usually see kidneys follow mental issues. So before I personally accepted that she had a kidney disease and a mental disorder, I would rather accept that she has a singular issue with methylation. That would just be my approach.
Okay, great. What's the turnaround time on the new genetic test? Because I just ordered the new genetic test, and I'm going to order it for
30
her
days.
as well.
Yeah.
30 days. Okay, great. So I appreciate that. And I want to give you some kudos for something. I'm a writer, and one of my clients has had a really hard time getting started with his book. I found out that he has Asperger's. And so I encouraged him to order the genetic test. He ordered the test. He's been on the supplements now for 3.5 weeks, and he has gotten off all of his meds. And the first time in his life, he has no gut issues. Like, he used to be afraid to go for a drive or even fly because of his gut issues were so severe. And now he's literally, I'm driving to Boulder, Colorado today to meet with him. He's a completely different person. We could actually we could start working on his book now.
This is the power of the human body. You see, before you accepted that he had a mental disease and a chronic condition, he had a deficiency in the human body. That is amazing. That is exactly why I preach what I preach. Thank you for that story.
Yeah, absolutely. And as soon as he told me he had Asperger's, I just knew that he had to take the test because I understand the gene sequence now from following you for 3 years. So,
amen.
All right, appreciate you. That's all. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, have a great one.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, 15 minutes left. We're going to start rolling. I get excited from those stories, guys. Like that story right there just made my whole day. And the gentleman that confessed his heroin addiction. I mean, that's when we're really changing lives. Hey, Nick.
Oh, hey, Gary. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing.
Thanks. So I had a series of questions and they just put me up. So, real quick, I've
You
been
got to
doing,
try to keep it to your most important one because I got a lot of folks behind you. But go
yeah,
ahead.
it's, but I did the Prolon about a month ago, and I was
Mhm.
wondering if there's any issue in doing this, so close, but that was
Not at all.
question. All right. Real
Prolon
quick,
is fast mimicking. This is water
Yeah.
fasting.
right. The Baja Gold. Can you overdose on this? I've been snacking on this while on the fast.
I mean, if you take more than about 2 teaspoons in water throughout the course of a day, yes. You can also cook with it. It's different. Your salt assimilation is different in cooked food than it is in liquids. You need less in liquid than you actually need in cooked food. So it's hard, but yes, you could definitely overdo it on the salt. I would never pass more than 2 teaspoons a day.
Yeah, I think I'm close to that. Final question. The scent, I can't even say it. The sensiobiotic, the dead cells that you have in your system,
Senescent cells.
senescent cells. Now I've seen some supplements from people like Quality of Minds and whatnot. Did that have the same effect, or is this fasting?
No, nothing is even remotely close to turning your own immune system on cellular senescence and autophagy. Nothing.
So
This is going to happen billions and billions and billions of times in your body in every 24-hour period. And by having your immune system sensitized and unburdened to go after senescent cells, you have a voluminous drop in cellular senescence versus a small targeted nibble on cellular senescence.
So net doing the water fast every 3-4 times a year.
Yeah,
will
3 or 4
eliminate
times a
any of
year
that
would
stuff.
be absolutely perfect.
Awesome. I brought a couple people into the Facebook group. They're loving it. And I'm going to turn the mic over to somebody else with more personal questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate you. Hi there.
Hey, Gary. My first name's Kevin. I'm out here in the Pacific Northwest. Thanks a lot for running this 3-day fast. It's great. I've done all your fasts this year, and I get a lot out of them. So thank you so much for all that you're doing. I took the gene test and the blood test, and my results were really good. And so I'm basically just on the optimized, the zinc, the D3, and then, of course, I also take the BPC 157 just because I've had
one of my favorite
kind of
peptides.
gut. I've had gut issues. It seems for as long as I can remember. I didn't really know that they were until I started listening to you, and then realized, oh wow, I've got some challenges here that I need to address. So my thing is that when I took the gene test, let me see here real quick. I know that there's other people that want to get on. I had 2 green markers and 3 yellow, and those were the MTR, the MTRR, and the COMT. Now,
poor sleeper.
What's that?
Poor sleeper.
Yeah, that's one of the issues that I have. I'll sleep for a couple hours, and then I'll wake up, and I'll be up for a couple hours, and then I'll need to go back to sleep. It's terrible. But I also have a lot of, like, when I wake up in the morning, a lot of anxiety and a lot of fearful thoughts, and I don't know if that's the COMT or what.
That is
but
absolutely the COMT. I'll recommend a product to you. Oh, sorry, that I recommended to a client yesterday, which is called Magnesium Breakthrough. It's 7 forms of magnesium in a powder. It's by Biooptimizers, who was not affiliated with me, by Biooptimizers. And this is a game changer for elevated COMTs that have racing thoughts. And remember, these come from elevated catecholamines, which are fear-based neurotransmitters, driving fear-based thoughts, driving, worst case scenario type thoughts. And if you have those in the morning, it's because your vitamins have worn off. Remember to take your second optimized late in the day. That will help. And then also, I would take an additional methylfolate 5-MTHF before bed, and I would take the Magnesium Breakthrough. Game changer for you, brother. Game changer.
Okay, so that 5-MTHF, is that what you said? Is that something
5-methylfolate, 5-MTHF. Yes, sir.
Can I get that through 10X, or do I have to buy that?
5-methylfolate through 10X, and the other one you order from Biooptimize. You probably get it on Amazon.
Okay, and the 5-MTHF, that's at night?
1 capsule at night.
Okay, 1 capsule at night. All right. Okay, well, hey, thank you so much.
You're really welcome, man. I'm excited to be on this journey with you.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's nice to actually have somebody instead of feeling like I'm on it by myself. So yeah, I appreciate
no,
all
that's
your
why we're
help.
building a
Thank you.
community, brother. We're all in this together.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're so welcome. Hey, David.
Hey, hi Gary, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing.
I'm a total newbie to this whole thing, and
Oh, you are?
I am, yeah. So thank you for setting this up because I've learned. I got about 6 pages of notes, and they're all fantastic.
Wow, that's great. I'm happy to hear that.
A lot of my questions have been answered, but being a newbie, where do I start? Like as far as tests go, is it?
Yeah, I
Go
would
ahead.
start with the genetic test, the test that you do once in your lifetime. You can go to 10xhealthtest.com, 10, the number 10, the letter X, healthtest.com, and they'll send the test right to your doorstep. And after you do the genetic testing, I would graduate to getting the blood test done and looking at the biomarkers in the blood and begin to supplement for deficiency rather than just the sake of supplementing. That's absolutely where I would start.
Okay, that's fantastic. And then if I have questions further from this podcast, where would I direct my questions to your organization?
You can direct your questions to my team at info@theultimatehuman.com. Once you become a patient of 10X Health, you can direct even clinical questions to the clinical team.
Fantastic. And do you have a page for alternative products? Like instead of having toothpaste with fluoride, you do this?
Gosh, I get asked that so many times. I am actually, first of all, I'm building my own entire chemical-free living line, which I hope to launch late this year. But until then, I am having building a list of I'm trying to call it like my 25 greatest products under $25 to try to keep the budget low but the impact high, and then show people like alternatives to Tide, alternatives to Bounty, alternatives to Doritos, things like that. And I'm almost done with that list, and as soon as it's ready, it'll be available for free on theultimatehuman.com.
Last quick question. I think, what do you have a spot where we can find those top 10 things to do that doesn't cost money that you've gone through a couple times in this podcast where I can just find it myself?
Yes, those are in the challenges or the newsletter guide that you can sign up for free on theultimatehuman.com.
Great. I'll let the next person jump in. Thanks for everything you do.
You're super welcome. All right, 5 minutes left. Let's try to get 2 questions in. Hey, Ray.
Oh, wow. Yes. Hi.
Oh, wow.
Hi, Gary. Yeah, I am so psyched to be able to talk to you about this. Just like the last guy, I'm pretty new to this. I stumbled upon this because I went to my general practitioner for my blood pressure. Seemed to have it under control, but obviously no reason behind it. This time around, he told me that he listened to my heart quick, and I had a murmur. Sent me to a cardiologist. The cardiologist told me I have AFib. What my question is here is the genetic test and all that stuff. Is something going to come up in that test that's going to show me? Oh, quickly, they told me I have 3 options. One's to shock my heart back into rhythm. Again, I work out 5 days a week. This is all a shock to me that my heart is out of rhythm. I can feel it slightly, but the fact is the options were shocking my heart back or medications. They put me immediately, my general put me on blood pressure med. He upped my blood pressure med, put me on cholesterol meds, which my cholesterol and my blood test was okay, and also blood thinners. And I really want to get off every one of them. I just want to know if there's a natural way of going about this through you.
Yeah, I would really encourage you to get the gene test and the blood test and get on Dr. Sarda's schedule, C-A-R-D-A, right? Dr. Carrie Carda, C-A-R-D-A. She's amazing. There is no charge to work with her if you just get a blood test and a gene test done. $600 for the blood, $600 for the genes. And then ask specifically to be put on Dr. Carda's schedule. She's excellent at that. If it were my preference, I would shock the heart once to return the rhythm, and then I would make sure that I, supplemented for my nutrient deficiencies and got my hormone, glycemic control, and my nutrient deficiencies under control, which you will get from the blood test. Rather than a prolonged period on meds, again, if it were me, I would shock the heart once,
to the
put
shock,
it back
okay.
into the proper rhythm, and then I would supplement it for deficiency and get the blood work done so that it doesn't return.
Okay. All right. Should I get should I do the shocking? Because I've been putting it off. Should I do that before, or should I just order these?
That would be,
right away?
if it were my loved one, that's what I would tell them to do.
Do that first. Okay. Thank you. Get to everybody else. Well, thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, you got it, man. It was great. Welcome to the group. All right, let's get the final question. I hope it's a really big one. I'm getting pretty good there. I'm getting ripped on this water fast. How you doing, man? Mohammed. How are you, Mohammed?
Good, thanks, Gary. How are you?
I'm doing incredible.
Well, good morning from Sydney, Australia.
Sydney, Australia, you get the distance award.
Yes. Well, I've been on 85 hours of fasting so far. I feel great.
Excellent. What do you got?
I've got three questions. One, do you have any plan to offer your services or product for Australia?
Yes, we have it. We have a vision to go to Australia. We just launched in 47 countries. Australia is one of those under a brand called Revive, which we're slowly turning into the 10X health system. So we are there and we are about to be up and running.
That's called Revive.
Revive, R-E-V-I-V-E, Revive in Australia.
Great. All right. And look, the second question, I've started my health journey about a year ago. So I've lost about 14 kilos. And since then, I've got an issue with kidney markers. So my EGFR is low. Doctor saying to lower my protein intake, but I'm on very low sort of macros of protein. So just around 120 grams of protein a day. So just wondering if there is anything I can do just to increase my EGFR.
Yes. The first thing I would do is I would check your hematocrit. Hematocrit is a measure of blood viscosity. If your hematocrit is high, you can do therapeutic phlebotomy, which is just a blood donation that will lower your hematocrit and increase your EGFR. The second thing that I would do is lower protein intake, as he advised, and I would add perfect aminos to your diet, and I would do perfect aminos 3 times a day rather than intake high amounts of protein. And the third thing I would do is I would take a supplement called Vinia, V-I-N-I-A, resveratrol, and look into another supplement called Endo, E-N-D-O, C-A-L-Y-X, Endocalyx. This is a supplement that repairs the glycocalyx, the interior lining of the blood vessel, which is some of the most fragile vessels in our body are behind our eyes and in the nephrons of our kidneys. If you repair the vasculature, the blood doesn't back up. It goes through the filter. So those would be my 4 suggestions. Endocalyx, Vinia, resveratrol, and double checking your hematocrit and reducing your protein intake. Those are all non-pharmacogenetic.
Thank you. Just the last question for my blood pressure. I do have blood pressure. So I've done the gene tests in Australia. So obviously I've got the MTHFR mutation. I've got high level of homocysteine, high cortisol level. So I've started following about 3 months ago, and I've started actually on Thorne Multivitamin Elite, which are methylated vitamins, and started on TMG. And
good.
Look,
TMG is the game changer.
And I've seen some, and I've stopped my blood pressure medication. So that actually helped me with the blood pressure. So instead of having a high blood pressure every day, now probably I'll have it once a week. So is that too early to see changes to sort of
not at all?
Stabilize that blood pressure?
Methylation will start in 24 to 48 hours. It's amazing how people will take trimethylglycine, the vascular system will relax, and the pressure will return to normal. It's exactly what happened.
I've seen the results on day one.
Here yesterday, that was exactly what happened with Dana White.
During the fasting, because I've stopped all my supplements and my blood pressure started going up for the last 3 days. So can I go back on my supplements while doing fasting?
Yes, you go back on your supplements as soon as the fast ends, but that's very typical. What happens? Homocysteine starts to rise, vascular system starts to contract, pressure starts to go up. As you bring homocysteine down, vascular system starts to relax, pressure returns to normal.
Great. All right. No, thank you very much.
God bless you, man. Great talking to you. All right, World Breckas and VIPs. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this 3-day journey. I mean, this has been an amazing 6 hours that we spent on the phone. I hope that you got as much value out of it as I tried to put into it. You all crushed it. I'm so proud of you sticking with it and optimizing your health. I really need you to help continue to help me get the message out. I mean, whatever I can do to inspire more people to make a change. And every single one of you that's gone through this 3 days and comes out the other side a changed person, you're going to change somebody else's life. So when you wake up tomorrow, please post your experience on Facebook and the Rural Breckas group or Instagram and tell the world about it. I'm looking forward to reading all your stories and how this experience went for you. I'll pick some of these and I'll repost them on my Instagram to millions of people and on TikTok to millions of people. I want people to hear from real human beings about real experiences. Rather than just take my word for it, I would love for you guys, please share your stories tomorrow on your social media or in your Facebook group, because that will just help me get the message out, and I will amplify you to the world if you're okay with that. If you didn't get to ask your question to my team will be posting in the private Rural Breckas group, where you can each ask one question and I will answer it over the next week when I'm back in town. I'm going to Vegas in 2 hours. And then I'm back on Sunday. But when I get back, I will sit down and intentionally go through those questions for you and answer every one that I can. My intention is to continue to pour value into this group, in case I'm relying on you to get the message out. But guys, stay strong. Remember, don't eat for 1 more hour and 1 more hour after that and 1 more hour after that. I mean, it is 5:03 at night. Most of us will be going to bed in 5 hours. Just go 5 more hours, guys. Wake up tomorrow morning and celebrate yourself. God bless you. Thank you for the trust and confidence that you put in me. It means the world to me. And I hope that you guys stay strong, finish this challenge, and tell the world about it. See you soon.
Record.